We're just getting older, world is getting colder. Trying to get sober, Lord help me get stronger. World is on my shoulders. How you doing today? This is the 12 for 12 podcast, the podcast about real life, recovery, growth, development, and redemption. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, do us a favor, tap that subscribe button and share for more. Also, we are sponsored by First Step Recovery. If you or a loved one is suffering from severe mental illness or your severe mental illness is causing you to use different substances, do not wait, do not hesitate to reach out, contact us today. You see the number up top, just call them. They'll be happy to help you. We have a special guest today. Back with us again. Ms. Lindsay, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here. It's always a good time.
Yes,
Coming
it is.
First Step. Yes.
It's always great to have her here. Always great conversations and great life experiences being talked about and understanding in life on the mental aspect, spiritual aspect, and just in general with substance abuse also. So we're going to get into a special topic today.
Yes.
So the people who might not know who Lindsay is, if you haven't seen it, you can go back and see the episode. It was just a short introduction, but tell us a little bit about where you're from a little bit.
Yes, so I'm Lindsay Tufte. I am a Louisville resident. I actually came up here to attend college at U of L and then fell in love, made it my home. So I absolutely love it here. I actually currently am employed by Wellstone Regional Hospital over in Jeffersonville, Indiana. So just have been able to meet wonderful people like Isaiah and other amazing healthcare partners out in the community and just loving life right now, Isaiah. You know? Can't ask for much more.
You gotta love life. You gotta love life. One thing about it, man, if you're not loving life, what are you doing?
Exactly.
You know, I think if you don't love life, then you need some help.
Yes.
You know, because it's a beautiful thing just to be alive. You're created for a purpose. You're here for a purpose. You're alive for a purpose. And just enjoy the time that you have above this earth, because a lot of people are not above this earth. So we're gonna get into a topic today about domestic violence.
Yes.
You know, a lot of people are experiencing domestic violences in their different relationships, and it's a very sad thing. You know, we're gonna talk about the people who abuse people and the people who are the abused, the victims, and different ways you could probably handle that situation, and let's get some growth and development to move away from that, you know, to realize, you know what, it's never okay to hurt somebody, it's never okay to put somebody down, it's never okay to treat somebody badly. So you've been in the experience of
Yes.
domestic violence before, right?
Yes, so my story begins in 2018-19, so a long time ago, kind of, but so my story begins, I actually met my college boyfriend in college.
Okay. I'm about to say your college boyfriend in
You're
high
like,
school.
wait, you met him in college? So we met, fell in love, had kids. There's a lot of relationships didn't work out, so we ended up getting divorced, and that's kind of where my experience begins. So we got divorced. I was very, of course, eager to move on. We all have this picture in our minds of what our lives are going to look like, and so when mine didn't play out the way I expected, I was pretty devastated. And so at that time, I was just eager, probably too eager, to move on, find the love of my life, build this family, just doing what I thought we were supposed to do. In doing that, I, of course, fired up Bumble, got on there, was just kind of looking around, seeing if I found anyone who I may match with, and I was quickly introduced to an individual. We went on a few dates, felt magical, felt perfect.
So you went to Bumble, right?
I went to Bumble.
So who led you to Bumble?
Oh God!
Was it was it a commercial, or was it just something that multiple people was on Bumble? You're like, you know what? Let me try this out.
Multiple people, and I feel like around that time period, people were like moving from Tinder, and Bumble was like the thing.
Yeah.
And it was fun. I'm not gonna lie. You know, it was really fun. Sometimes I felt like a bad person on there. I'll never do it again. Like it was a one-time experience for me probably, but the danger in, of course, finding people online is not knowing them.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, after I did this, and we had planned to go on a date, meet up, I did go and try to run like a background check to see if there was anything on there. There was nothing. So I really did, went on this date, thought I had met the love of my life, was so happy, like things were really turning around for me. Mm-hmm. That lasted about 3 months. It was perfect. And then the mask quickly slipped very abruptly. And things started getting violent, abusive, dangerous. Now 3 months in, I still was, at this point where I was just so desperate, honestly, just to make this work, because I did, I really did feel like I loved him, and there was a lot of shame in getting divorced at the time. Like for some reason, it was just, to me, I'd failed.
Yeah.
I had really just failed, and so I really wanted to just turn things around. Too much, to be honest. Looking back, I let a lot slide. But, it was about the 3-month mark where things started getting really bad. I mentioned it to one of my friends, my best friend, just kind of like, oh gosh, you won't believe what he did. And I just remember like the shock in her voice. He had like broken into my house at one point and like broke a bunch of stuff on my porch. And she was like, Lindsay, why are you dating this person? Like, just shock. After that, at the time, my brain was not willing to let go of it. And as most of us do, we can fix this person. He's had a hard life too. I can fix this. We can't. We're not responsible for anyone else's behaviors, actions. And those are, of course, when you decide to make changes in your life, that's a personal decision. So, but at the time, I wasn't accepting that.
You know what? I think you said a great thing right there. Listen, you can't fix them. You're not. Hey, man. Listen, you're not their you're in a relationship with a person. You're not their therapist, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And you're not responsible for their happiness.
You're not responsible for their happiness.
Yeah.
And you can't control a person's happiness. So if they're really just not happy and it's something a lot of times that I see, it stems from things that are going on the inside. I don't think it's even I just feel like you gotta weigh it on the scale. Is it really worth going through this with this person? This person really has this type of stuff going on. Can you really see yourself spending a lifetime with this person? Or you might spend 1, 2, 3 years, even 6 months. You can't get that time back.
Yeah.
All we're doing is getting older, so it's like...
In most of these abusive situations too, something bad will happen. Like that happened, and then probably for the next 2 weeks it was perfect. Like too perfect. And that's something that at the time I don't think... Again, I just saw perfect, things are going good, finally made it. But it was too perfect. There was not a lot of honesty there. It was just, I was doing whatever I could do to make it work. Things, of course, continue to spiral. I, at this point, wasn't ready to leave or even talk about it. After I had mentioned it to my friends and she was like, hey, this is actually insane. You need to leave this relationship. I quit talking to my friends about it. So as far as they knew, that happened and everything was fine. But it continued to spiral. There was an incident where I talked about leaving him and he actually drugged me. And told me that if I leave, because he actually is a lawyer here in Louisville too, and so he used his knowledge of the judicial system to really mess with me. And so he's like, if you do that, I'm gonna go tell them to drug test you so they can see you took what. And I still to this day don't know what he gave me, but I knew I was drugged, right? And so I was terrified. Like I felt like I couldn't leave. I didn't want to talk to anybody about it. Little did I know that nobody can go into the court and tell them to take your kids away from you. But he was a lawyer, so I assumed he knew, right? Like I just believed everything he told me. So that kept me with him. Just like the constant threats, doing things like that, like just to stack cards against me, I guess. The final, I guess, event that happened before I finally was like, okay, this is actually dangerous, and what am I doing here? I was actually leaving him. He had called me and we had gotten in a fight over my kiddo's dad. He called asking like a normal co-parent question, and it just sent my ex off, the abusive ex. He just lost his mind. And so I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I obviously have to communicate with my children's parents, like this has to happen. And I honestly, after that moment, I felt so good. I was like, you know what? I'm taking my life back. I told him like, I'll never have to talk to him anymore. I was like fully ready to like move past all this. Yeah. I go home. It was after work, went home. I was getting ready to go and run some errands, and I hear someone just banging on my door, like trying to bust it down because I had it locked. I go look and see it's him. And so I'm freaking out because I don't want him to break my door. And I unlock it and I'm like, what are you doing? Well, he just busts through. And a lot of this, like, it's very spotty. Like, our bodies are amazing, right? Like, they block out a lot of, like, traumatic stuff that happens to us. So I remember bits and pieces of it. I do know he totally destroyed my house. Chairs were thrown through walls, doors. He went to the kitchen, opened up any packaged item and just dumped it outside, like food everywhere and carpets. Got a marker and wrote profanity all over the walls. Just like insane stuff. I think I told you this, like cut all the cords to like hair dryers, microwaves, like cut the cords so I couldn't use them. So just like wild. As this is happening, I go and lock myself in my room. He immediately, after he does what his business out there, he comes and he's banging on the door to my bedroom. And at this moment, I live in a condo. And so I'm like, okay, if I don't let him in, he's probably going to break this door. He's already broken like every other door in the house. And my neighbors are probably going to call the cops. Like, this is getting wild. So I open the door and he charges me. And so obviously I'm not fighting. He's much bigger than me, so I'm not fighting back with him, but he sees me go to grab my cell phone, takes it out of my hand and throws it through my wall in my bedroom. So then I'm just like, oh gosh, how am I supposed to get help? And this is kind of where I lose a lot of like what actually happened in that room. But at a point he had me, and I always trigger warning because this is kind of where it gets rough, but had me on the ground choking me. And so I'm sitting there being choked and just trying to figure out how I'm going to get out of this situation. Like I was actually like, that's all I was thinking about. Like, I've got to get out of here. I grabbed my work phone and he at this point like kind of, harder. And he's like, if you call the cops, you'll be dead before they get here. And so somehow, don't know how, I end up like army crawling out of my room, get up and run to my car. He chases me out there, rips the door handle off the car door. Didn't even know that was humanly possible, but it is. And I got away. And the craziest part about all of it is that instead of going to the police, instead of calling like a loved one to tell them what had just happened to me, I went to a hair salon and asked for a service. And I always look back at that and I'm like, that is wild. Like, why did I end up there? And it was because I think that it was a place that I was familiar with. I went in there and talked to my hairstylist, didn't mention anything to her, had put clothes and stuff on so you couldn't see like my battle wounds. But, and then left, went home. When I got home, and this is always like, I feel like this is like God working, my sister was there. My sister never shows up at my house. She actually lives in Indiana. So like it's a trip for her to come to my house. But she was like, I just have a bad feeling. Are you okay? And she's talking to me on my porch and I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Like clearly not fine. She can see I'm not fine. And she comes in the house and she's like, oh my God, who did this? Like, who did this? You're going to tell me who did this right now. And I wouldn't tell her. And so she leaves, goes and calls my mom. My mom's on her way up because of course, like what is going on with Lindsay? But about this time, and I like mentioning this because I am a mother of a 14-year-old boy, and I think this is, we owe the world around us to ensure that we're raising our sons in an appropriate, healthy way. Mm-hmm. So after my sister leaves, the ex, his mom actually shows up. I guess he had told her maybe what he did. I'm not sure. But she shows up. I remember she walks in and she's like, oh my gosh, take pictures of everything. And I was like, well, I already have. And I'm like, I'm probably going to call the cops. Like, this is crazy. Like, my house is destroyed. And, we're sitting there talking. And of course she's like, oh gosh, sorry. Like, this is bad. About that time, her son comes back in the house and she leaves me there with him. And so I feel like it's, if I had walked in a situation and saw that my son had done that, I would have called the cops on him because it's those behaviors, as we know, don't change unless there is some type of accountability and rehabilitation, right? Like no one is going to be a violent person and then overnight be like, I'm okay now. And so it was, it was one of those things where I bring that up and, I don't like bringing it up, but I do feel like as a mother of a son, we have a responsibility to teach our kids and hold them responsible when they mess up. Like that's literally what one of our sole purposes is to teach our kids how to be better versions of themselves, how to make a positive impact on the world. But she left. At that point, my mom had come up, seen everything that had happened. I did call 911, just like the non-emergent line, and told them a little bit about what I'd gone through. And I just remember the lady bless her, on the other line was like, oh my gosh, please call the cops. Like, this is so unsafe. Like, this is a terrible, right now, this time period, you need help.
So she's like, listen, you don't need to be calling us. You need to be calling the emergency. Get them
Yes.
over there,
Get
guns
them over
blazing, before this guy does something. And that's a serious thing because, man, one thing about it, domestic relationships is like domestic calls. I could say is one of the most dangerous ones when it comes to them showing up because, you know, you have people who are all in their emotions. They're not even mentally right at that point in time, and they're just going off. They're liable to take everybody out.
Yeah, and you know statistics show that those violent instances usually occur when somebody is trying to leave.
Yeah.
And so it was literally my whole situation, like looking back, what I know now was textbook. Like there were so many red flags and I just literally was colorblind and saw green. So, you know, there were a lot of red flags. There were a lot of things I do differently.
Yeah.
I did end up, after having that conversation, I still didn't call the emergency line just because
man.
I know there
you know,
with these situations, there's just so much shame. Like I wasn't even admitting it to myself what had happened, and like, hey, this is like actually an insane situation you're in. What are you doing?
Since you said that, I do have a question. Why do you think it's a reason why a lot of, you know, it's I know it's a fear thing that people could be scared of leaving because, like you said, that you know, people leave and next thing you know, everybody's dying, but. What do you think is you said shame, you mentioned the shame. Is it shame of what's happening one of the reasons that you think that a lot of domestic violence victims stay?
I think there's so many different factors. I think a lot of us and who've been in those situations really do feel like we can help them.
Okay.
I really do. I honestly did. Like I was helping him schedule appointments and like making sure, you know, took meds. Like, so I really did. Like in my mind, I'm like, I can help him, but he didn't want help. That was the problem. Like that was the holdup. You know, he wasn't ready for that. And again, you know, that's not my responsibility. At the time, I thought it was, but shame too, because it wasn't, you know, it was embarrassing that I had, and you know, I don't look at it this way. This is mindset then, but it was embarrassing that I'd allow myself to be in a relationship with someone so violent for a year.
You felt like you was in too deep? I felt like it was shame.
Yeah, and I felt like, you know, I had my kids were around it. They were never around violence. I made very certain of that, but kids are very smart. You don't have to tell them what's going on for them to know what's going on.
Yeah.
And you know, because of that, my kids have been in therapy. They've talked to people about it because things like this don't just affect you. You know, it affected my entire family. It affected my entire life. But, you know, I was lucky because I did get out of it. I did eventually open up to people about what was going on. I got connected with the Center for Women and Families. They actually helped me write up like my emergency protective orders, get all of my documentation ready for court. Later was connected to the Brook, did their intensive outpatient women's program. It really saved my life because, you know, we kind of talked about like why, you know, what reasons was it shame? Like why was it shame? After I'd gotten in that program, I was able to really kind of get back to the root of the issue.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't end up in unhealthy situations unless there's some stuff going on behind the scenes. And so actually seeking treatment for that allowed me to really kind of like get down to the basics of like, hey, why do you feel like it's okay for people to treat you this way? I mean, truly, I had to ask myself that because I'd been in nothing like violent like this, but I'd been in some unhealthy relationships. It was kind of becoming a trend. And so being able to be like, hey, you know, this is, you know, why don't you feel like you deserve more? Really like asking myself that and starting from the ground up, rebuilding my life, like rebuilding my soul, like just learning to love myself because at the time I didn't. You know, if you really love yourself, not every case, but in most cases, you're not gonna put up with someone abusing you.
Yeah.
And so just kind of getting down to basics of how I got here, what I need to do to fix it, how I need to like rally around my family and make sure they're okay. There's a lot to work through. And I've had people since all of this reach out to me who have been in similar situations, and I always recommend getting in some type of group treatment. It really did save my life. I still, I was in that group with other women who had been in similar situations, either sexual abuse, domestic violence, some type of abuse. And it was probably one of the most meaningful years of my life, just being surrounded by that community, not feeling alone, having people who understand what I was talking about. Because that is something when you do talk, people don't understand. Like how, why would you stay in that? Like what, like who would do that? And I didn't understand it. I didn't know I was staying there. But it was, when you're surrounded by people who truly understand what you're going through, I feel like that is when you give yourself permission to get better and not be so hard on yourself and not blame yourself for things that have happened to you, but instead taking what's happened to you, putting a positive spin on it, and creating a better life for yourself, whatever that looks like. Kind of getting down to basics of how I got here, what I need to do to fix it, how I need to rally around my family and make sure they're okay. There's a lot to work through. And I've had people since all of this reach out to me who have been in similar situations, and I always recommend getting in some type of group treatment. It really did save my life. I still, I was in that group with other women who had been in similar situations, either sexual abuse, domestic violence, some type of abuse. And it was probably one of the most meaningful years of my life, just being surrounded by that community, not feeling alone, having people who understand what I was talking about. Because that is something when you do talk, people don't understand. Like how, why would you stay in that? Like what, like who would do that? And I didn't understand it. I didn't know I was staying there. But it was, when you're surrounded by people who truly understand what you're going through, I feel like that is when you give yourself permission to get better and not be so hard on yourself and not blame yourself for things that have happened to you, but instead taking what's happened to you, putting a positive spin on it, and creating a better life for yourself, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, that sounds great, definitely. And what you were saying before about, you loving yourself, and once a lot of people who end up in domestic violent relationships and end up staying around feeling like they could change somebody else, it comes from the self-love aspect. Because if you do love yourself, you're gonna want to love somebody like yourself. But if you love yourself, you're not gonna allow yourself to stay in that type of situation. So it is a lot of times that you have to figure out, okay, what's going on with this side of you that's stopping you from really loving yourself, or to accept to be treated better than you need, or worse than that you deserve to be treated. Because I was in a domestic violence relationship before also, and I wasn't beating the person or nothing. I was on the other end of the stick, They used to just get mad, hit, throw stuff, throw tantrums, call you names or whatever, man. Verbal abuse, sometimes physical abuse, but then with the man, sometimes you have to sit there. You don't have to, but just on the man aspect, okay, what are you gonna do? Call the police on it, I could throw her off or whatever, but it's like, you can physically overpower them, but then it's like, what, you just kind of take it, and a lot of men do take it like that, and then you have to think, okay, why would you go through that, And that's kind of like what I had to figure out. I'm like, before I left, I'm like, man, I was thinking the same thing. Man, this person could change. They're just going through a bad time. This only happens when they drink, so they're not really that type. They're nice majority of the time. It only happens every now and then, so it's nothing crazy. But then I look back at it, it's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy, and it's like, what the heck? Like, I wouldn't sit down and let anybody else talk to me like crap. I could be out on the street, nobody else talk to me like crap. Yeah. Complete respect. And then I let this person talk to me like crap, and I just sit there and take it. So then it got to a point where, like, man, I'm not gonna take it no more, man. I'm not gonna. That's a wrap. It's over with, And then, when you come to that decision, like, man, I love myself. I'm not gonna let the time pass by because you can't get the time back. And I just went to thinking, like, man, it's not even worth it, man. And then, it lasted for like a year or whatever like that. And it wasn't like that at first. It's like the last half of it. Yeah. 6 months, you good. The other 6 months,
it'll be
all
perfect.
of a sudden, it'll be straight. And then next thing you know,
we're getting married tomorrow. This is awesome.
Some craziness. And then next thing you know, it's like, okay, just out of nowhere, you just flip. Yeah. And then I sit back and I'm like, yo, where did the flipping happen at? And then I realized, okay, something triggered this situation. And I found out that, you know, they were abused. They were in a domestic violence situation where the guy used to beat them and then the anger and stuff kind of like went down to the next person she was with, who happened to be me. And I'm like, dang, man, what the heck is this? Yeah. And a lot of people who end up being the abusers, they a lot of times went through a lot of traumatized situations. They need to seek help and therapy. So if you happen to be with somebody who you know, and like you said, you went through background checking this guy
I did
and everything, and nothing popped up on this guy. You know,
come to find out, he is like a professional at getting his record expunged.
Oh,
so
man.
that is it's a real thing. I support diversion programs. I think if people are ready to take accountability, do the work, like, yes.
So did he have like domestic violence on his record before?
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
And there's more since me. There's been more, but he keeps. And this is
and he's a lawyer too, so he definitely probably you know what I'm saying has some.
He gets it expunged. Yeah. I think you only have to have it on your record for like 6 months, like a certain period of time, and you have to complete some classes. But the thing with that is, I feel like diversion programs are great, but for DV specifically, I feel like there's not much accountability. So I know there's a great way to like set something up to where they can do better and get that off their record and move forward in life. But I think that there needs to be way more accountability with that and checking, because since me, he's gotten all of the stuff that I filed expunged. And he's already, since me, I know of 2 people who have been victims of his, to be honest.
And that's pretty sad, because I mean, especially, man, I feel like it shouldn't be getting done. Like, you shouldn't be getting that expunged like that. Really, honestly, especially with domestic violence, because people, I mean, at the end of the day, it's only one way it's gonna end, man. Like somebody's gonna seriously end up getting their life taken, and it could have been prevented if they wouldn't just expunge people. It's crazy how, you know, continuously getting expunged.
Yeah.
They don't know who they're getting, and then a lot of times people don't do background checks on people. That's one good thing that you did. You did do a background check on a person. That's a smart thing to do. Do background check on whoever you with, to try to find out about, okay, well, what's the hey.
And a lot of them
are
free.
You this way? Yeah.
Like, you can find them. I think I ended up paying for one just because, like, I wanted to double check. You see how that turned out? I should get my money back. I was going to tell you, I love that you bring up that you experienced a domestic violence incident, because it literally affects anybody, men, women, anybody. So I think it's important you mention that. I do know about in 2025 in Kentucky, 48% of violent crimes were tied to domestic violence. If you go out on the street right now, 1 in 4 women have been victim of domestic violence. And as we know, and as we can just see, these incidents usually turn into something more broader. Like, there's usually a lot of repeat offending or other crimes. And so I think it's really important that there's more emphasis on this. Even the programs that we currently have don't have a lot of funding. They can't help the amount of people that they want to help that need help because they're understaffed. Of course, money is an issue for most places, but there just needs to be more conversations. I feel like, the places we do have in Louisville do such a phenomenal job, but really pouring into them more, because this isn't an issue that's going to go away. If anything, I feel like it's only going to become more of a problem, because with it, we're surrounded by people, places, things that make others feel that this behavior is acceptable and okay and normal, and it's not normal. Yeah, it's very abnormal. Yeah, definitely. But just really pouring into the community, to the people who are doing the work. We in order for anything to change, we all have to accept that it's an issue and take responsibility and do our part to change things, to change the way people have been living. And a lot of times that means, again, pouring into the Center for Women and Families, all of the places, all of the people who have made decreasing domestic violence a priority, just ensuring we're all doing our part, because it's the problem's not going to go away unless we make changes. That is one of my regrets, that I didn't, because of course I did take legal action, but I wish I had called 911 at the time. Like, I really do. I think that would have made the process a lot easier for me because I was going and you know, filing and doing stuff after the fact. So I feel like if I had followed the instructions of the 911 operator and called the emergency, like figured all that out, I feel like it probably would have been better, easier on me to get out of it, because it was, you know, there was a period of time where I couldn't escape this situation, or I could not think about it because I was going to court or like talking to lawyers or therapists. And so just, I feel like if I had actually had somebody, you know, the police come in and help me and really do all of that, take all the pictures, file all the reports, you know, and this is something I want to touch on too. A lot of folks aren't comfortable calling 911. Of course, my situation was rooted in just like being embarrassed and not wanting to get anybody in trouble. But a lot of people, they're fearful to call for help just because of lived experiences, a multitude of issues. But that also is terrifying for me because everyone deserves peace. Everyone deserves, this is actually the 911 operator was like, you deserve to be safe. And that's so true. You deserve to be safe. And it's scary to bring to bring police officers into your house and have them on your front lawn, but you know, it's necessary. And when I did finally talk to folks, I was only met with kindness and understanding, literally just throwing information at me. The dispatches who gave me the Center for Women and Family, you know, they provided those resources to me. So when I finally, you know, was comfortable enough to admit everything that was going on, I was able to move forward and utilize all the info they gave me, and it really helped me. It really did, yeah. But I encourage folks, like, because it is hard, and I don't think, you know, it's something I struggle with daily too. You know, I was diagnosed with like a long laundry list of like things that was a result of this experience. And we had kind of talked about this before, but mental health is like learning a sport. Like, you have to practice daily. You have to like stay up to date on the things you're supposed to be doing. You kind of have to hold yourself accountable and be your own champion through it all. But it's so important to get that help, because I 1000% would have ended up in another relationship like that if I didn't. And now it's like, I know what to look for. I know what I want. I know what I deserve. And I just feel it breaks my heart when people struggle, I guess, to get past that, because life is so beautiful when you get out of those things. Now, life's like this, right? But, you know, when you finally take account of everything that's going on in your life and seek help in the right places, it changes everything. Yeah. And, you know, we had talked about this. I, you know, went through that experience. I had never had any inkling of getting into the behavioral health field at all. Literally none. That happened to me, and I felt called to get into the world of behavioral health, and thank God I did, because I love it. But it really is turning the worst moment of your life into a testimony. Of course, I'm not like talking about my experience with patients, but just having the knowledge of how you can get out of these things, like who to contact, like that you can get out of it and get better, I feel like is just a tool in my toolkit that I can sometimes get out and share with folks. But it's been crazy. Absolutely wild. I would have never believed this was my life 10 years ago, but I'm so grateful for it, because it has just given me a experience that I have that I can use to help other people to make changes, to fight for people not being able to expunge their records. You know, it gives me purpose, and like, I do not want anybody to ever go through what I went through. And so it's literally taking a terrible thing and turning it into a testimony.
It's a very important thing that you're doing. Standing up is what you have to do. Being strong, and even coming out and telling your story to raise awareness about what's going on with domestic violence. Getting the help you need, because you do not deserve to be in that type of situation. And the people who might be the ones who's doing these type of things, you need help.
In most of these situations, you do love the person, like the good parts of them or the fake parts that they've showed you, just depending on what you're working with. But it's really understanding that you deserve more than what you're being given, and that you are in danger. Yeah. Like, you're in danger. Like, because it wasn't, you know, my first incident and the last incident I shared, that was not all the incidents. Like, I had been beat on several times. But it's not going to get better. And I think I convinced myself it would eventually, but really focusing on what the situation is and accepting it and moving past it. But you're right. I had to do a lot of therapy because I was so used to chaotic situations that I would seek them out. But, just understanding kind of the science behind what these experiences do to your brain and how to reprogram it, because you've got to do a lot of reprogramming.
What are some of the plans that you might have for the future? Is to move forward in moving on with the relationship or a future relationship, being that you've been through that experience, and what's some advice that you could give them to possibly move forward if they were in a domestic violence situation and decided to move forward to another relationship?
I think the first thing is absolutely being honest with yourself and someone who you trust. If you tell someone who loves you what's going on, they're going to be pretty quick to set up some kind of intervention or have a hard conversation that is needed. But, there's so many resources in Louisville too. And this is something I didn't know when I was living my experience, that are willing to help, that are totally anonymous if that's something you don't want to get into. But gosh, just finding a community. I don't think I could have gotten through it unless I had talked to other women who had been through it and were better. They were creating a new life. So I think that's the first thing, accepting it, acknowledging it, surrounding yourself with a community that's going to support you and going to walk with you through all of this, because it's hard. It really is. You've got to figure out, the small parts of you that are a lot of times hidden on how, why is this okay to me? Why am I here? But once you do that, again, your life's going to blossom. I think that's really important. Some things that I'm focusing on after, I'm definitely taking this situation, and I don't want anyone else to go through this ever. It derailed my life for probably 5 to 6 years. I told you I'm still, it's a daily thing working through all of that. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'd be more embarrassed to not be doing the work, to be honest. So just making sure I'm tuned in to doing what I need to do to make the world a better place, because whether, a lot of people believe it or not, it is our responsibility to do what we can for our community, to show up any way we can to make the world a better place. And so I'm looking at going back to school, all the things, just to be able to have the education to actually make a difference. So going back to grad school eventually, just to get all the stuff I need to get out there and evoke change. But also I work at Wellstone Regional Hospital. We serve folks who are going through just about everything, behavioral health, substance use. It has been one of the greatest blessings of my life to be in this position. I tell people all the time, I'm very lucky because I'm not clinical, so I'm not actually doing the work, but I have the absolute pleasure of watching people be admitted and then seeing them being discharged. And it's honestly, it gives me chills. I have chills right now. It literally gives me chills because we meet folks when they're a lot of times at the lowest point in their life, hopeless, nothing's getting better, life sucks, right? And then to watch them leave with just a renewed purpose, feeling good, feeling like they deserve to feel good. I think that's honestly one of the most beautiful things in the world, because we do, every single one of us, despite our worst moment in life, deserve peace and love and healing. And there's not one person on this planet who does not deserve that. Even my abuser. If he was ready to go and get help and do all the things, I would be so proud of that. You know what I mean? I inherently want better for people, even if they haven't always shown me the same, even if they don't want better for me. But, I feel like I've been put in such a crazy situation, but I also feel like I was put in this situation for a reason. I didn't deserve it, but I definitely want to take the pain, the sadness, anything that I experienced, and do the work to ensure nobody else goes through that. And if they are in it, they know how to get out of it. And I want everyone to be represented, because like you said, men, LGBTQ plus community, literally everyone is affected by domestic violence. There's not one person who probably doesn't know somebody who they really care about who hasn't had an experience with it. Yeah. And there's an issue in that because we don't talk about it a lot. We know it's happening. 1 in 4, we could go out on market, 1 in 4 women, probably more, honestly, if we were like, raise your hand. But, you know, there is a lack of openness about it because it is such a, you know, a shameful feeling if you're living it. And you're just not, it's, you know, who's going to bring that up? And so just, I think we have a responsibility to make this more of a conversation that people are comfortable having, really pouring into the folks who are doing the heavy lifting. Center for Women and Families, if you have not considered volunteering for them, do it. I love it. Anytime I've been over there, I'll go and serve food, you know, whatever I can do, but just pouring back into the folks who are doing this work because they have had funding cut. They have, you know, more people there than they have staff. So just making sure we're doing our part to make certain the work's happening and that people have access to care and help. And there's not a barrier. And the behavioral health field, there's a lot of barriers we're trying to jump over at all hours of the day. So just figuring out how to get people where they need to be.
It begins with talking about it, you know. So that's what we're doing now. That's what we did. And we thank you all for tuning in. Is there any last things you'd like to say to the people?
No, I'm just grateful for the opportunity to talk about this. Yeah, and just always, you know, I'm always a resource. I work at Wellstone, Lindsay Tufte. Feel free to reach out. Even if it has nothing to do with Wells, I tell people this. I even tell like my healthcare partners I work with this. Even if it's not about Wellstone, feel free to reach out. Literally, here is a resource for anybody. And just my lasting message is just I just want people to know that they are loved. They're important. You don't have to stay in a situation that does not serve you. Because you deserve more.
You deserve more. You definitely do. Thank you all for tuning in and pray that you all have a blessed day.